The Zenith Springs Resort looks like a postcard had a baby with a winery. Vine-covered terraces, eucalyptus trees, and glassy pools reflecting perfect skies. My daughter Ava married into this, or at least into the family that owns half of it. Her husband Connor wears linen like he was born in it. His mother Marla wears pearls that sparkle like they're judging you. I'm Sarah. I do night shifts in hospital accounting. Numbers don't lie. People do. I wasn't supposed to be here, but Ava asked. So I came, because that's what mothers do, when their kids insist the people who belittle them didn't mean it. NNTHE welcome dinner has organic everything and eye contact that feels like a performance review. Marla leans close. We have a family tradition tomorrow. It builds resilience. She says resilience the way some people say obedience. They? I ask Ava and the new nutritionist. Marla smiles. Team bonding. Nuva's smile doesn't reach her eyes. She looks at me, then away. The tech hesitates. Safety says I sign your paycheck. Marla answers. NNTHE door shuts. The latch clicks. My chest tightens. I count because numbers are oxygen. 4 minutes. 6. At 8, laughter outside turns into talk about expansion permits. At 10, I hear nothing inside but the oven-dry hush of heat. At 11, a thud and I step forward. Open it. Grant blocks me with a palm. Don't be dramatic. At 13, I don't ask again. I walk past, press the emergency bar, and the door gives, because the tech never set the secondary lock. A wave of heat slaps my face. Ava is on her knees, dazed, a raised welt blooming near her temple where she fell against the bench. The other woman is vomiting into a wooden bucket. Get her water, I say. Nobody moves until I move first, and I lead Ava out, sit her on the cool tile, and check the pupils the way I've checked 1,000 patients. One responds sluggishly. I pull my phone. Stay with me, honey. I hit record. Tell me, I say softly, who decided the timing? Neva swallows. Her voice is sand. Marla. She said, no quitters in this family. Behind me, Marla laughs like glass. Honestly, Sarah, everyone's fine. The spa tech flinches. We've had incidents before. We're supposed to log. Grant's look silences him. You'll log nothing. I keep my phone steady in my palm. Evidence is best gathered before people remember their lie. At the clinic, the physician assistant orders fluids and a scan. Concussion. Superficial burns. You're lucky, she says. Luck looks a lot like a mother who doesn't accept tradition. Ava dozes. I step into the hallway, open my notes app, and list facts ne caras. 6:03 a.m./door, unlatched by me, at 6:16 thermometer. Read 102 degrees Celsius. Photographed. Directives. No water, no quitters. Audio N. Spa tech name. Mateo S. Badge number 0412. Said, incidents before. Then I add the part my brain has been circling since last night. Insurance. I search the resort's corporate filings. Public data never hides as well as people think, and find their captive insurer and the renewal date. This week. If a major safety event lands now, the premium spikes. If someone hides it, that's fraud. I'm not a journalist. I'm the woman who calls auditors when numbers smell wrong. And the sauna stinks. Connor visits with flowers. He kisses Ava's forehead, stammers apologies, and says the sentence that turns my jaw to stone. Mom means well. Mom locks employees and guests in a sauna without water, I say, and calls it a team builder. NHE shrinks. She thinks resilience. Resilience has an OSHA poster. I answer. It doesn't have a burn unit. NHE looks at me like I'm the problem. Can you not escalate? The board meets Saturday. If this blows up now, the expansion dies. There it is, the number that matters to him. Understood, I say, and Connor relaxes because he thinks understood means agreed. It doesn't. It means I now know your priority. When he leaves, Ava whispers, please don't go nuclear. I won't, I say. Nuclear is messy. I'm going surgical. Every resort hides a messy truth in a neat room. At Zenith Springs, it's the archive behind the accounting office. I use the extra key card. Security cameras love big gestures. They miss small ones like a middle-aged woman moving like she belongs. The file cabinets hum with secrets. I pull incident logs, the ones actually kept by staff, not the sanitized PDFs. 3 heat illnesses in 12 months. 1 ambulance transport marked guest dehydration declined report. A sticky note in Mateo's handwriting told Marla we need timers. She said timers are for quitters. I photograph everything with the date included in frame, then open the vendor folder. There it is, a rush invoice from this morning to replace a broken emergency latch on sauna number 3. So the latch broke before. They never reported. My pulse stays slow. Numbers are calm when the story gets loud, and I'm almost done when voices approach. I slide the drawer, step into the linen closet, and listen. If she files, we deny, Grant says. She's family, no record. The insurer wants the incident log, the controller replies. Renewal, then we give them the curated one. Grant cuts in. If the girl wants a wedding here in September, she'll remember who pays the catering. A bead of sweat slides down my neck. The girl. My daughter is a bargaining chip to his renewal. I breathe through my nose until the voices fade. Then I slip out the service door and into sunlight that looks faker than the staged photos on their website. I don't call the police. Yet. I call 3 other numbers. N1. County Health. Anonymous tip with dates, temps, and the phrase pattern of underreporting. 2. State Labor Hotline. I ask exactly how long a ritual can last before it becomes a violation. Then I give them names. N3. The insurer's Special Investigations Unit, the one listed in the filings. I attach redacted photos and a note. Undisclosed incidents pre-renewal. Urgent. By sunset, I have 2 case numbers and an email that says, we will be on site Saturday. Saturday is the board's gala. Marla's favorite stage. And I book 2 seats at the gala, mine and Ava's. She protests. I tell her the truth. You deserve to hear them lie with your own ears before we press play. Play what? She asks. And I touch my phone. The part where they said, no quitters, and you'll log nothing. NSHE nods, pale but steady. Okay. Zenith Springs looks like a magazine cover again. Champagne like gold, strings like a soundtrack. And Marla at the center, glittering like a chandelier, learned to walk. She takes the mic. Family is our foundation, she says. And press play, Ava whispers. I don't interrupt. I walk to the AV desk and hand the tech a drive with a file labeled Investor Sizzle Reel, final.mp4. He drags it onto the timeline. This replaces slide 3. I say, warm as a summer aunt. He nods. Because women who sound certain get what they ask for. Slide 3 arrives. The screen should show a vineyard drone shot. Instead, it shows Marla, audio synced and crisp. No water inside, they need to sweat it out. Then Grant. You'll log nothing. Then Mateo. We've had incidents before. Then a still photo of the morning's rush invoice for the emergency latch. The date timestamped in the corner. Silence eats the room. Then, the insurer's SIU badge appears at the back of the ballroom like a thunderhead, flanked by 2 county health inspectors. A board member coughs. Another one stands. Connor looks like linen can't save him. Marla's smile stays on her face, but it loses power. This is distorted. It's complete, I say. And we haven't even reached the part about the curated logs. Ava steps up. She doesn't shake. I was in that sauna, she says. And I was told to be a good sport. I won't be. NTHESIU lead clears his throat. We're opening a fraud review. We'll need the full incident logs and staff statements, effective now. And Grant blusters something about family disputes. But numbers don't argue. They just tally consequences. Connor edges toward Ava. We can fix this. We? She asks softly. Who was your we yesterday, me or your renewal premium? NNHE has no answer at the exact second a process server, says his full name out loud, and hands Marla a notice of immediate suspension pending investigation. Nava turns to me. Mom, she says, like a decision arriving. Let's go. We walk out together, past the eucalyptus trees, past the perfect pool reflecting a sky that doesn't belong to them anymore. My phone buzzes with unknown numbers. I let it. I've already talked to the only people I needed. Grant and Marla step down, voluntarily. The board distances itself. The insurer delays renewal, premiums balloon, expansion stalls. County Health posts a notice. State labor audits. Mateo cooperates and keeps his job. The tradition disappears from the handbook like it never existed, except my folder says otherwise. Ninava files a formal complaint and a civil claim. Not out of revenge. Out of clarity. Connor sends flowers. Not lilies. He writes a note, she doesn't reply. Healing prefers silence to apologies that come after lawyers. NWE, move Ava into a place with real windows and no rituals. I show her how to read an incident log the way you read a man. Not by what's printed, but by what's missing. She shows me how to breathe without counting. One evening, she says, "Do you think I was weak?" I look at my kid and shake my head. You walked out of their sauna and out of their story? That's not weakness. That's the plot twist. NSHE laughs. Not the brittle kind she used at their table. The real kind. The kind you can build a life on. They never appreciate the architecture of a day, the way I do. People see a party. I see 1,000 invisible stitches pulling tight at once. Caterers who arrive 5 minutes early. Strings that hold their C for a heartbeat longer. A temperature gauge that reads triple digits because triple digits looks like conviction in a family that worships grit. The girl, Ava, has the softness Connor needs shaved off. I don't dislike her. I dislike unshaped marble. We teach backbone here. That's what the sauna is. A kiln for character. When the door jolted open, I knew who had done it before I turned. Mothers like Sarah break symmetry. They don't respect choreography. They confuse comfort with love. My mother never opened doors. She let heat do its work. That's why I'm a woman with a ballroom, and Sarah's a woman with a tote bag and practical shoes. If we had gotten through 15 minutes, the girl would have glowed. Instead, paperwork. Techs who won't shut up. Numbers people sniffing around. And now a screen playing my words back to me like I'd ever be ashamed of what it takes to raise winners. And I don't fear inspectors, I fear witnesses. And that woman records like it's a reflex. I should have barred her the minute Connor proposed. But banning mothers reads poorly in the write-ups. I adjust my pearls in the mirrored pillar and rehearse my lines. Family first. Exaggeration. Vested interests. It always works on men who love profits. It should work tonight. If it doesn't, then I will teach the board the second rule of control. When the narrative slips, replace the narrator. They book a side office that smells like lemons and legal pads. Inspector Duarte clicks a pen and opens a thin folder. He doesn't look angry. He looks patient, and patient people are the most dangerous. Walk us through the event, Ms. Parker, he says. I give him times like coordinates, photos like topography. 13 minutes. 102 degrees Celsius. No water allowed. Words spoken verbatim. I play the clip where the spa tech says, incidents before. Duarte doesn't blink, just says, we'll need him too. NNHE asks if I want to make this a formal complaint. I nod. Not for vengeance. I add, for prevention. NNHE smiles like he's been waiting all week to hear that exact sentence. Good answer. They don't smile. SIU lead Carter spreads invoices like tarot cards. You worked hospital accounting. You know what captives look for. Yes, I answer. They look for disclosure. They look for no surprises right before renewal. NHE slides me a copy of the curated log they received last renewal. 0 incidents. Surprising, he says. Statistically absurd. I reply. NHE clicks his pen once. We'll subpoena the raw logs. And, I say, you'll want to talk to the controller. He repeats the word, curated, like it's holy. Carter scribbles a name. If this is what it looks like, they eat the surcharge. Maybe worse. And I leave the building feeling nothing triumphant, just clean. Like rinsing a cut with iodine, it stings. It saves. Connor stands by the fountain outside the boardroom, jacket off, future leaking out of him like air from a cheap balloon. When he was 5, he built cities out of shoeboxes at my kitchen table. When he was 15, he wanted to design boats. The boy could arrange a daydream with surgical precision. Somewhere between then and the linen, he learned to measure love in quarterly returns. Is there a path where we keep the expansion and fix the culture? He asks, I searching mine for an answer that doesn't exist. There's a path where you grow a spine. I say softly. Culture doesn't fix from the outside in. It fixes when the person who benefits from it says known. He rubs his forehead. Mom, why do you always make things binary? Because the building is on fire. I answer. You don't debate paint colors while the drapes burn. NHE looks toward the ballroom doors, where his mother argues in a low hiss with two men who sign her checks. He shakes his head like he's trying to wake. I'll talk to Ava. Good, I say. Talk to her like she's not collateral. NHE flinches at the word. That's progress. Back at my place, the kitchen table that raised 2 kids out of coupons hosts evidence. We lay out printouts like a detective show that can't afford moody lighting. Maya joins on video, sharp as ever. N, health is in, insurance is in. Labor's in. I report. And Maya whistles. You made a trident. Nice. Ava picks at a paper corner. I keep thinking I should have banged the door, or shouted, and I take her hand. You survived the kiln and told the truth. That's not nothing. NSHE nods, but the bruise on her temple makes my throat ache. I almost married a family that thought pain is virtue. You almost married a man who forgot that virtue is how you treat the person least able to walk away. Maya adds. Ava exhales. I'm not marrying anyone who needs my silence to stay rich. NWE all look at each other, 3 women with the same eyes and different scars. It feels like a verdict and a vow. The emergency board session is catered with neutral food. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, a salad that tastes like apology. Chairwoman Patel runs it like a triage nurse. Let's stipulate facts, she says. There were unlogged incidents. There is audio. There is an injury. The insurer is conducting a fraud review. County Health has opened a case. NSHE turns to Marla. Response? Marla folds her hands. Overblown. A family exercise spun into scandal by a disgruntled in-law. And Patel doesn't blink. Your signature appears on an email instructing staff to omit while renewal is pending. Marla's smile fractures. Context matters. Agreed. Patel says, here's context. We're a hospitality company. If our guests are afraid of our rituals, we're not in hospitality. Grant clears his throat. We can amortize the surcharge. We'll weather it. And Carter from SIU, invited to the table, says calmly, you might weather a surcharge. You won't weather a denied claim if we prove willful non-disclosure. Silence. Numbers talk with knife voices in rooms like this. Patel sighs. Effective immediately. Marla Ruiz and Grant Ruiz are suspended pending the outcome. We appoint interim operations with full authority to cooperate. She looks at me, to my surprise. Ms. Parker, thank you for raising this at great personal cost. And I don't preen, I nod. Do right by your staff. That's the headline. No courtroom fireworks. Just mediation in a room with too many water pitchers. Ava sits across from Zenith's counsel, a woman as precise as a metronome. Connor chooses the chair at Ava's side but keeps his hands in his lap. That tells me he's learning. NTHE agreement lands like a stack of bricks. Reimbursement, medical coverage, policy overhaul with third-party monitoring, and a line I insisted on like oxygen. No retaliation or interference with future employment for any staff who cooperated. The mediator asks if anyone wants to add a statement. Ava clears her throat. I don't want your apology, she says, steady. I want your procedures to stop hurting people braver than me. NTHE counsel actually nods. Understood. And I watch Connor watch Ava, like he's meeting her again in a room where money can't drown character. They don't reconcile. They don't brawl. They sign and stand. Separate paths like clean incisions. Healing doesn't look like triumphant music. It looks like Sunday. We string cheap cafe lights across my small yard. Maya burns the first batch of veggie skewers and laughs. Our neighbor's kid plays a saxophone badly through the fence, and we clap anyway. Nava arrives with a paper bag of lemons and a face that has discovered mornings again. I thought weddings were supposed to be big to make them real, she says, slicing one. But what if small is what's true? Small survives inspection, I say, and we bump shoulders. Instead of a ceremony, we hold a pledge, to ourselves, to each other. 3 women speak promises out loud. No more rooms where we must disappear to be allowed to stay. We sign them on index cards because fancy paper doesn't make vows stronger. After dark, Maya puts on a playlist called Kitchen Dance, and we move like a trio that earned this square of earth. A breeze lifts the lemon scent, and for 10 minutes, everything cruel in the world looks far away. Zenith Springs has a new brochure. You can tell a lawyer wrote it. It lists, quote, safety first protocols above award-winning experiences. County Health's fine becomes a scholarship fund for hospitality workers who certify in emergency response. That part one, like Mateo, is head of spa operations now. He emails sometimes short notes with photos of new timers installed on every door. He signs off, still counting. Thanks for teaching me not to shut up. Connor moved to a smaller property out on the coast, the kind with foghorns and breakfast that comes in skillets. He sends Ava a postcard once, not flowers. Working on being a person, it says. She doesn't reply. Healing loves postcards more than bouquets. Nava started a wellness studio above a bakery, yoga mats and fans that work, a framed copy of our No Disappearing pledge by the door. On Wednesdays, she teaches a class called Beginner Boundaries. It sells out. As for me, I switched from nights to days. I still live by numbers, but I let them be tools, not cages. Some mornings I walk past the hospital fountain and think about rooms and heat and doors that open. Because one woman decides this is enough. You don't need to be loud to change a story. You need to be clear. You need evidence, a backbone, and a moment when you stop asking permission to protect what you love. I keep the original audio on my phone, not because I want to replay pain, but because I like the sound of my voice in the middle of a storm saying, "Open it." And we do. Autumn arrives the way good news does, quietly, with more light than you remember asking for. On a Sunday morning crisp enough to make breath look like brushstrokes, Sarah walks past the hospital fountain with 2 paper cups of tea. The lemon slice in hers brightens the steam. She's done with night shifts now. The badge on her lanyard says day accounting, but what it means is sleep and the kind of mornings that don't start with fluorescent hum. Ava locks up the studio after her first class, sliding the "See you at noon" sign into the window. 2 women stayed after to ask about the pledge, she says, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. One of them said she's been holding her breath for years. Then we can be alone. Sarah answers, handing over a cup. They sit on the low wall near the fountain. A pigeon struts like it's expecting applause. Somewhere down the block, a saxophone practices scales. A little flat at the top and brave anyway. The city wears a sweater of gold, ginkgo leaves, bakery light, the bright knit hat of the kid whose father lets him feed those pigeons exactly 1 stale crust at a time. Zenith sent another update. Ava says, opening an email. New safety director, quarterly drills, scholarship fund launched. Mateo's photo is in the announcement, and Sarah smiles. Good. Titles suit people who already did the work before they had a title. Neva hesitates. They're having a community day next week. Open tours, workshops, no locked doors. Patel invited local businesses to set up small booths. She asked if I'd teach a half-hour, Boundaries for Beginners, session on the lawn. The last time Ava stood on that lawn, she staggered out of heat and into a story that could have ended without words. Now she's being asked to bring words back, to teach breath where command once barked. She watches water ripple in the fountain, considers whether that's progress or performance. Do you want to? Sarah asks. Nava waits long enough to feel it. I think saying yes would be for me, she says slowly. Not for them. I want to stand on that grass and not flinch. Then we pack extra mats, Sarah says, as if the decision were logistics and not a reclamation. They clink paper cups and let the saxophone find its breath again. Community Day is the kind of warm that sneaks up on cheeks. Zenith Springs looks different because the rules are different. Gates open, maps simple, signs practical. Emergency exits right pointing arrow. Water stations left pointing arrow. Ask us anything planted like wildflowers. Someone learned design is a cousin of courtesy. Mateo catches them at the path, lanyard bouncing. Timer survived a whole quarter, he says. No one called them weak. He points to a table stacked with laminated cards. How we log. How you can ask. We used plain English, he adds, half proud, half shy. I practice saying no to adjectives. Nava laughs. No adjectives is a solid policy. They walk the grounds the way people tour a house after the contractor leaves, opening and closing to see if hinges complain, doors behave. The private sauna door has a window now, small but honest. A red pull station grins from the wall like a promise in plastic. Above it, if you need out, pull. No italics, no shaming. On the lawn, folding chairs line up like well-kept teeth. In the corner, a small placard credits the scholarship fund. Patel stands near the mic in clothes meant for work, not optics. She spots Sarah and Ava, waves with the same hand that signs audits. Thank you for coming. Patel says, meaning it the way engineers mean level beams. We learned that hospitality starts where fear ends. You learned that the fastest way to build trust is to stop hiding the exits, Sarah replies. Patel smiles with her eyes. We wrote that on page 1. Nava's session fills quickly. People bring curiosity, not caution. Mats rolled under arms, shoulders held high enough to make gravity look temporary. She begins with breath and the smallest ask, that everyone look at the door and memorize the handle. You can rest here, she says, and you can leave. Both are good choices. Halfway through, sunlight shifts, and for a second, the edge of the sauna building throws a manageable shade across the grass. Ava doesn't look at it. She looks at the faces in front of her. At the woman from last week who kept her eyes open the whole time, and now lets them close for 5 counts. When the class ends, a few linger to say thank you. One stays to say, I always thought boundary meant wall. You made it sound like a hinge. Exactly, Ava says. Hinges move. As they pack up, Patel steps to the mic and gives the shortest speech the lawn has ever heard. We messed up, she says. Murmurs ripple, then still. We put results over people. We won't do that again. Here's how you can check us. She lists the hotline, the public logs, the schedule for unannounced drills. She doesn't say trust us. She says verify us. The crowd claps in the way people clap when they aren't sure if clapping is the right verb, but want to make a sound that means fine, prove it. It's the most honest applause the resort has earned. Connor shows up, without an entourage and with a paper bag holding something that doesn't wilt. He waits at the edge of the lawn until the crowd thins, then approaches like he used to enter Sarah's kitchen as a teenager. Careful, hopeful, aware of thresholds. Hi, he says to Ava. I heard you were teaching. I'm working down the coast. Smaller place, real windows. Ava nods. It's not absolution, it's a receipt. And I brought this, he adds, lifting the bag. Inside, neatly wrapped in a dish towel, is a cardboard marina, the kind Ethan once made from shoebox docks in marker blue water. On the underside, a scrawled 7-year-old's name, Ethan. On the edge, written in neat adult hand, another, Connor. We made it the summer your brother wanted to sleep on a boat, he says, almost smiling. He said Sarah would pack the best snacks. He was right. NFOR. A heartbeat Ava is back at the dining table, glue on her fingers, cardboard under her forearms, the laughter of boys who loved boats more than they loved what boats meant. She sets the marina on a bench. Thank you, she says, for returning what isn't yours to keep. Connor nods, because he's finally fluent in that sentence. I'm learning to count different things, he says, not quarters. Good, Sarah answers gently. Some math changes everything. NHE looks as if he might say more, but restraint is a new muscle and he respects its burn. Congratulations on the studio, he says to Ava and to Sarah. Thank you for the hinge metaphor. It stuck. He lifts a hand and leaves, before gratitude tries to buy back what it can't. A quieter man passes him on the path. Later, Sarah will realize it was the former controller, alone, reading a laminated card about how logs auto-forward now. Some people stay to clap. Some come on Sundays to learn to be the person whose initials don't show up in the bad margins. Near the end of the afternoon, a familiar outline pauses under the eucalyptus shade, a silhouette made of pearls and posture. Marla. No cameras, no ring light. One hand around a tote that isn't designer. She stands where a person stands when they don't know the word for arrive without entitlement. And Patel notices. So does security. Sarah lifts a hand to them both. A small gesture, meaning let the air do the next part. Marla moves closer until the distance between them is conversational, not performative. Wind lifts a fine hair at her temple. Without the stage, she looks like a woman who knows where every switch is in a dark room and hates that someone else found the fuse box. I'm not here for a scene, she says. I'm here because I have a granddaughter. She gestures to a couple across the grass. Strangers, then laughs once, brittle. Not mine. Someone else's. I saw them lay a blanket and I thought, I might never be invited to the day my own family lays one. Sarah meets her eyes. You might not, she says, steady. That's not a punishment, it's gravity. I was good at building, Marla says softly, surprising them both. I wasn't good at making sure the doors stayed open. You can learn at any age. Sarah replies. Start with one door. Hold it without deciding who deserves to pass. Marla swallows, looks at Ava, looks away. I can't undo. No, Ava says from behind her mother, voice level. But you can stop asking other people to disappear so your story reads clean. Marla nods as if a judge read a verdict with terms she understands. I won't ask again, she says. The asking was the problem. There is no hug. No absolution. There is air passing between three women not competing for it. Marla steps back, the way a person steps back from a cliff they've admired too long. I'll go, she says. You've made this, not mine. That's correct. When she leaves, Ava exhales. Sarah feels neither triumph nor pity, only the responsible heat of muscles used correctly at last. That night, they string cafe lights across Sarah's small yard. The lemon tree the neighbor gave them in a bucket has taken. Thin as a promise, but leafing. Maya arrives with bread, burns the first batch of veggie skewers, laughs, tries again. The saxophone from down the block finds its pitch for 3 glorious notes and misses the next 2, and they cheer anyway, like this is a sport with rules they invented. Do you ever think about the audio? Ava asks when plates are empty and the lights make little moons in the spoons. The clip, how it changed everything. I think about my voice, Sarah says, how even in heat I sounded like myself. Neva leans her head on her mother's shoulder. You sounded like oxygen. Maybe that's our job, Sarah answers. Not to be the alarm, to be the air. Maya raises a glass of lemonade with a wedge like a sun to hinges and timers, to people over optics, to receipts we keep and stories we release, and they clink. The lemon tree shifts its leaves like applause. Later, when the house is quiet in the way a house gets quiet after choosing the right kind of noise, Sarah opens her phone. The radio diary folder still sits there. Timestamps, notes. The clip whose waveform looks like a heartbeat. She scrolls, reads the first entry she made on the night the text said you're off the list. NIF you want your kids to fly, she wrote. You cannot cut your own wings off and hand them the feathers. She smiles at her earlier self. Tired, shaking, brave anyway. She adds a final line and opened the door, kept it open, walked through together, and then she closes the folder. Not because the story is over, but because it doesn't need to be proven again tonight. Sarah turns off the kitchen light. In the dark, the yard glows. 3 women's silhouettes under little planets of cafe bulbs. A small tree practicing being a grove. A door gently shut that opens as easily as a held breath. Out on the street, the saxophone tries again. It almost gets the note. Then it does. And once it finds it, it stays.